Hello, hello. A very good morning, everyone. Hello, hello. How are you doing? Yeah, we still need some coffee or a kick-ass session on Earth education. It might have the same effect to get awake and to be more connected with nature. Welcome to all of you. Can you please put on your headphones because there's a loud environment here, so please, by raise of hands, can you hear me? Yeah, I see many people. And do you also understand me? Then we're really off for a good session. A very warm welcome. My name is Sandy Snook. I'm a Belgian MC and moderator, and it's so lovely to host this session on Earth education. And we have to switch the order of this session a little bit due to some people who are still arriving, hopefully, fingers crossed. But we will start a little bit different with a panel. Because the idea of this session is that the past 2 centuries, we lost so much connection with Earth around us. And we feel 60% less connected. And you might think it's an April Fool's Day, so this is not true, but unfortunately it is true. But luckily, all the people we have invited here today for the panel and for the fireside chat, they're people who really changed this. And they do this through experiential learning experiences. So not just theory, but really go outside and learning in and from nature. And we will start this session with a panel discussion where we explore how people in the field, how they are trying to restore the connection with nature. Not just for themselves, but for hundreds and thousands of other people. Because, yeah, we're not connected to nature, and of course we want to restore that. And we're the privileged ones, aren't we? Because we can attend Change Now. But it's also important that we involve everyone, also in communities with lower income. So how can we make this nature learning, how can we make it inclusive? That's what we're going to talk about. And I would very like to welcome Edmore, Anthony Owosekun, and Hanli Prinsloo. Give them a warm round of applause. So here you go. I will give you one as well. Yeah, they immediately start to share. Welcome all of you to this panel. So nice to have you here. Yeah, Hanli, you're in the blue seat, which is obviously because you came all the way from Cape Town in South Africa. And even you grew up on a farm, but it's in the water that you feel like a fish in the water. And you used to be a competitive free diver, and now you are the founder of I Am Water. It's an organization that offers in-water experiences to foster ocean conservation. Could you tell us a little bit more on that?
Absolutely. Good morning, everybody. So as Sandy was saying, I'm best known as a free diver these days, but I grew up on a horse farm outside Pretoria. And for those of you who've been to South Africa, you would wonder, why would a free diver be coming from a horse farm? But for me, my connection with nature started with connection with wilderness. And I think that's often, most of our story is that our journey with nature starts with a childhood connection. And I was lucky enough to grow up on a big, wild farm. And we had a dam and 2 rivers, and I had 1 sister. And between those bodies of water, my sister and I pretended to be mermaids. And we would swim underwater and create a whole mermaid language that we were like clicking and squawking and talking to each other underwater. Now today I realize, with all the experience I've had in the ocean, we were actually talking dolphin, but we thought we had a mermaid language. And I always felt so drawn to the stillness underwater. But what the farm I grew up on, it was a very wild farm. I had 2 rules as a child. My mum would say, come home before the sun sets and don't die. And everything else was fine. And I feel like that was really, for me, like the ticket to be in nature and explore. And it also teaches a child really good risk management, because if I climb to the top of this tree and fall, would I die? Probably not. So then I can climb to the top of this tree. So for me, it was very much like exploring myself and my body in a wild nature space. And that's really set the trajectory, I think, for my life, within being bold and trying to do things that are actually a little bit scary that I might fail at doing, which we can talk about later with building an organization, but also just keeping a really strong true north of the why we do this. And I think that is set as a child.
That's really amazing. And children will mimic that. No, if you're not afraid of nature, then they will just follow you, and you will be their guide that will bring them home safe. Ed, you have a history as a teacher. You're in Dorset in the UK. I can also call you Eco-Ed, because that's the name of your company. And you studied sports science, and then you volunteered in Australia in a school in Perth. And you were really inspired by how the school, how they were connected with nature, just in the school and on their premises. And that was for you the inspiration to do the same in the UK. And then after really a lot of years of working, you developed a whole curriculum which was rolled out in a whole school for the school you worked for. It's an amazing job you did there, right?
Yeah, it was an amazing job. It first started in the garden. Children didn't know where the food came from, and I thought there was a great opportunity to build a school garden. I never built one myself, but designed one. Built it over a school holiday about around this time. Children came back and were like, whoa, hang on a minute, like, what's this? And we literally taught them through the seasons what they could grow, how they could harvest, but then also learn how to use what they're grown to make dishes, to cook with, and use that from around the world. Children selecting dishes and countries from around the world that they could cook with. They might not be able to go to that place, but you know, they had an opportunity where they could cook. We invited the community in, and we all had a bit like food share. And that was like the start of the makings of this curriculum, which was built through nature, through getting children outside, getting children immersed in nature, connecting with nature, which then led on to lots of eco topics that was threaded through the curriculum. And it took a couple of years, but it was in place for 7 years.
Wow. And then, of course, people from around the globe, they started noticing the great work you were doing. So it wasn't enough to do it in one school anymore. You wanted to broaden the impact you had. And now you work as a consultant, so organizations and schools can hire you, and you will help them to develop a curriculum, not as an add-on, but really embodied in the school.
Yeah, I think that's really important, that it's not a bolt-on. It's part and parcel of like everyday life, creating a culture, creating an ethos, that it's threaded through like a golden thread through every like topic, every like curriculum subject. And everybody knows their role within that, whether they're a child, whether they're a parent, whether they're a staff member, a teacher. Everybody, facilitates that, and seeing that huge impact from from children 5 and 6 who are now 18, who are now going off to university, but all that's been instilled in them, and they're going off to do conservation, they're going off to study soil, they're going off to do regeneration, and that's purely because it was instilled from them from a really early age.
That's really nice, and we're going to talk about that later, and how you can even deepen the impact. It's not just the children. I mean, you have a multiplier effect. I just want to introduce my last, but definitely not least guest, Anthony Owosekun. Do I pronounce it right? Yeah, luckily. You're based in Berlin, and you also have a history as a teacher and as a social worker there, and then there you realize that many people don't feel part of nature. And you felt the urgency to change that, because from the moment that you realize the value of nature, only then you will protect it. And then you founded EMPOCA, a company that connects black kids and teenagers with nature. Could you tell us a little bit more on EMPOCA?
Yes, sure. Yes, I founded EMPOCA 2019, and it was the idea was to connect actually youth of color in urban areas to nature, because in my childhood I was a Boy Scout in the northern part of Germany, and I was actually the only black Boy Scout in this group, and I didn't realize it those days, but then when I grew up I just realized access to nature is not equal at all. And this is actually the thing I wanted to change with the organization, because this nature gap is real, and to close the nature gap you need other ways of access. And our idea at EMPOCA is to have role models from the communities who know the realities of these young people, who speak the languages, and also the actually who can reflect actually also the the reality of these children in the way they show up, in the way they act with them. They can really have an impact on the lives of these young ones, because we have about 1,500 kids since then through our programs. But much more is important, we activate these ambassadors, our nature ambassadors, who are young people to the age of 30. And they're actually the ones delivering our programs, and the ones inspiring the young people to not only experience the outdoors once, but to stick on it and also experiencing the outdoors for a longer time. And in Europe, there are millions of youth of color who haven't seen a forest, never seen a forest. And we are here in urban areas like Paris or London, or maybe less bigger cities in Europe, and the reason they haven't been outdoors is the narrative about nature and also the access are still predominantly white, and predominantly also very addressed to people who have privileges and also money, who are, and also understand the codes. So this is the thing we would like to change with our partners from different kind of areas, from urban areas, companies, or also brands.
Yeah, you already mentioned, and it's a very important part, because access to nature, it seems like something very democratic, and everybody can enter a forest, but it's not democratic at all. And I see you nodding, because when apartheid ended, so before there were separation, a beach for black people, a beach for white people, and then in theory everything was possible and everything was accessible for everyone, but in practice it wasn't the case, because there were still some systemic barriers for black people. So for example, the public transport, they didn't reach the beaches. So that's something you also want to tackle with I Am Water, to reach the people from underprivileged, from low-income communities, so they can go to the beach, right?
So fast forward from the farm where I didn't die, I became a competitive free diver. And every time I came back to South Africa, I would stand on the beach and see who's on the beach, who's in the water, who's on the beach, who's in the water. And year after year after year, everybody who's going deeper than their knees looks like me. And if that's not changing, the question I always ask myself whenever I see a problem is, well, who's going to fix that? And if there isn't somebody raising their hand, then it's like, well, somebody's got to fix that, you know, and I don't feel like I'm maybe the perfectly representative person to do this, but if nobody else has the capacity and I'm uniquely placed to do that. So I started I Am Water in 2010 with that goal of bringing underserved communities who have transgenerational fears of the ocean. Because beaches in South Africa were white only, most beautiful nature spaces were white only, we have the systemic separation from the ocean. And when we started I Am Water, it's like, well, Cape Town, how many of you have been to Cape Town? So when you land in Cape Town and you drive towards Table Mountain, you drive through kilometers and kilometers and kilometers of informal settlements where people are living in terrible poverty, and then you arrive and there's wine farms and there's amazing restaurants and you feel like you're in this like enclave of Europe, you know. But the reality is that most South Africans are not living in that kind of setting. So when you have these really big metro areas where children are technically walking distance to the ocean, right, 5 kilometers or so, but there's no access. So that was with I Am Water, having a really big group we want to capture, is that we work with primary schools, grade 7 students. We work with the schools with an MOU with the Department of Education to be able to take them out of school time to the ocean and give them an ocean experience. And I can tell you what that looks like, but especially for those of you who haven't been to Cape Town, I'd actually love to show you a video to just show you what it looks like when children who haven't opened their eyes underwater get an opportunity to do that. I'd love to play the I Am Water video, please.
I Am Water's vision is to connect coastal communities to the ocean so they can fall in love with it and thus protect it.
I'm feeling totally nervous today. I'm scared of the water.
On our Ocean Guardians workshops, we have grade 7 students from local schools come to the beach and learn about their oceans. The workshop consists of 2 days. The first day, the experiences are had at a beautiful local tidal pool. On the second day, we bring them to one of our incredible pristine marine protected area beaches.
These ocean conservation workshops are important to the kids in our community. Some of them don't really come out of good homes. Some of them can't even swim. So to bring them out a little bit of their comfort zone gives them that confidence to show them that they can actually do anything that they want to do.
The Ocean Guardians workshops have 3 stations. We do rocky shores, exploration, a beach cleanup, and a snorkel station.
Our goal is that whoever was afraid, whoever had that fear, comes out with love and want to teach more people that everyone can overcome these fears.
It was the first time for me to snorkel. The ladies spent more time with me. Now I know how to float. I absolutely want to do it again.
We had a lovely time and the seaweed is coming on your dinner. Yes, bang. But I did love it. And thank you for everything.
That's from transgenerational fear to joy, which will also be transferred. Yeah.
And, you know, I feel like sometimes systemic problems need systems to change them, and so often it's about becoming really practical. So how do we work with 36 children at a time? Putting them into groups of 12, so that 12 go on one station at a time and then circle through it. And how do we achieve scale? How do we work with more schools? Now we can do 2 groups at a time. Okay, that means we need 12 facilitators to work with them. We want the facilitators to come from the same communities, but there's very few young people who have that experience. So now we have a 1-year certified training where we train unemployed young people to work in our programs, but also have a training at the end of that year that they're very employable in the blue and green jobs. We have over 50% unemployment in the youth sector in South Africa. That's 18 to 35-year-olds. And the blue and green job sector is still very, very divided and non-inclusive. So also creating more opportunities for work. And at the same time, the young people in the programs are being coached by somebody who looks like them, talks like them, understands where they come from. And that is so important for this work.
Mm-hmm. And Anthony, it resonates with you because of course, this for you being the only boy scout, this was also important. What's the impact that you notice if so people attend from one day to a whole week of camp in nature when they get in contact with EMPOCA? What's the biggest impact that for the black people and other people of color? No, because you also expanded the audience. How do you see that for them it's so important that you're really changing the system, that the systemic the system being unequal, the access?
Yeah, sure. The first change is actually the inner change. We really see it's like we always have this moment of calmness in our nature camps. It's about nearly every day in the morning where they do this meditation. Just imagine urban kids doing meditation. It's quite interesting because when we started this, we always started this like for a minute, and then we extended every day by a minute. So at the end of the week, it's like 6 minutes. And it's very interesting because they are really enjoying connecting with themselves. And when we say connecting with nature, actually we are nature and we connect with ourselves. And if we understand like we are part of this, then we start to care about it. Then we start to even learn without having the feeling like you are in school or you are learning. And this is the best part, like this change of the self-awareness, like I am someone meaningful, I have a role to play in this whole ecosystem, and I also have a community, because the collective experience is very important, and it also helps to navigate also the personal experience somehow, because if you experience love, joy in the collective, it gives you a push, right? You're like, yes, I can do this. And being in nature is not always positive, because you also have challenges. You have like hikes, and the rain is pouring all the time. So if you overcome all these small challenges, then you gain a lot of self-confidence. And in the end, what we are trying to do is similar to what you are also doing. Like, we are giving them the opportunity to gain future skills, because future skills are actually not taught at school in Germany. I'm not sure how it is in other European countries, but future skills are like skills we actually need to, as a society, to adapt to the climate change. So if you don't have opportunities to learn or to explore these, then you will not be part of the future, or you'll not be able to be part of the change. So this is actually similar to what you are doing, and we are trying to do this by having positive experiences and transforming the challenging ones to positive outcomes.
Yeah, it's not only about being in nature, it's about being connected and therefore caring about nature, and also it's a sense of belonging. You mentioned already before. I mean, if you have a group, you feel better. It's good for your inner peace. I have one more question for you, Ed, because in the curriculum you developed. I mean, most parks in the UK are access is for free, so there's no difference there. But still, not all children have the same means. But there's also an economic part of the curricula you develop now, because sometimes some kids can go to a nature reserve which is paid, others can't. But you made an economic part. They produce some products, they sell some products to make it. Is that your contribution to, if you advise people to make it inclusive, that they have an economic part as well?
Yeah, definitely. Big passionate for entrepreneurship, making products. We did all kinds of things, from making our own cleaning products to making wax-tastic no plastic, which was alternative to cling film, beeswax, 100% cotton material dipped in beeswax. and children went out selling. We had people, car salespeople and estate agents coming in and teaching children how to sell properly. I wanted them to go out there and sell. I didn't want them standing behind a desk. I wanted them out there selling. And they thrived with it. They really enjoyed it. And using those real life skills in a real life context to raise money for something they truly believed in. And all that money went back into the school. They wanted a nature reserve, and they got a nature reserve with a pond. And then from that, they learned about the flora and the fauna. And they ended up being the experts. They learned what was growing there, what they could see, the birds, the insects, and then they became the tour guides. They gave tours around the school about what they could see. They then extended that to the community as well, and they got donations of money for what they were doing, and they were giving up their weekends to go and facilitate this. And it was so empowering. It was so great to see them using what they had learnt, but showcasing that across the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really nice that it really becomes inclusive for everyone. What would you say is the biggest impact of making those nature experiences inclusive?
The biggest impact of making them inclusive? Well, to begin with, they just should be. I mean, from a social justice perspective, you know, this is something that I think in a way is kind of a shame that it's still a conversation and still something we need to do, but it is, right? So I think we did with I Am Water, we did a study with a university in the US, UNCW, to really look at the impact that our programs are having on the young people we work with. Because I think as an organization, you want to ask yourself, is what we're doing working? And if it's not, can we make it better? Because if it's not, we should be doing something else. Because it's not about our egos, it's about the work. And so we did this very, very in-depth study where we were both measuring social emotional learning and conservation mindedness. And I think it's really exactly what you were saying, Anthony, that when we learn things in nature, in the stillness, having the sense of belonging in this moment where our hearts open, we're so receptive for new ideas around how we want to move on the planet. You know, if a young person hasn't really had a true experience in nature, who are we to say, oh, but you shouldn't litter because it goes into the ocean? You know, you want to connect before you teach, before you have to expect this. And the study that has been published, and you're welcome to get in touch with me, Eva, if you want access to that, was so overwhelmingly positive that this professor and his team now are publishing articles, presenting on it, talking about it, because it's greater impact than they've seen on any outdoor programs, because it's both the personal journey and the conservation mindedness. And I think that connection is so important. And what you were saying about the meditation and the mindfulness, this is, I think, we do that at the beginning of all our workshops, and a breathwork session. And that connection to self and place is what sets the whole scene. That's where the real change starts. And that's also what makes it different. Too often there's this talking around outdoor classrooms, which is interesting, but just to learn your geography lesson in a forest won't have the same impact as sitting quietly, meditating, breathing, connecting, feeling that stillness and that connection, understanding how you're a part of the whole, as opposed to, now you're still going to engage this part of your body, you're just in nature. And I think that's often been a missing link. So I think the impacts are huge, and it's such a crucial time for our planet that when we break down working in ocean conservation, you know, we look at, people ask me, what are the greatest challenges to the ocean? It's like, okay, plastic pollution, species loss, overfishing, habitat loss, like blah, blah, blah. And you're just having this like Armageddon monologue, you know? And I think at the root of everything is disconnect. And if we are connected to nature and if we love, we protect. And then all those things are affected. And it's specific to you. Like, okay, maybe I don't need to shop so much fast fashion. Maybe I don't need to drop this wrapper. Maybe I can eat more plant-based. Maybe, and then it becomes just like this natural river of decision making that flows through our lives, as opposed to trying to only have facts and figures impact the brain. So I think that the real future for protection is in that behavior change that comes from connection and love.
Yeah, it's really about, it's not only about, yeah. It's not only about the head, but it's mainly about the heart. And once we feel connected, we will preserve it. Yes. And how? Because you're all doing amazing work. I mean, you with the I Am Water, with consulting the schools, the organizations, with going on camps. How can we scale this? How can we have more impact? And how do we measure the impacts? Because more measuring the emotions, because that's when we will have impact, but how can we scale your work? You can go, Anthony.
Yes, sure. We can scale, or we are scaling our work through scaling access. We are not scaling our activities, we are scaling access. And we are doing this like finding this nature leaders or ambassadors in the cities and doing similar things like you are also doing, like a half-year program. And in this half-year program, they can become community leaders and then do programs on their own.
Yeah.
And this is very easy way to find these people, because we are not like using these codes we are using here. We are just trying to figure out what are their interests. So we've first of all had a landing page where they can just write down what they really like to do in their free time. And then we design a way we approach them and give them actually the opportunity to be themselves, and not like to be a Boy Scout or to be an environmentalist. Because, to be honest, this picture of environmentalists and Boy Scout is quite difficult in some urban areas, because they're like, this is not part of my life. But if you because it's like my grandma or like my father tell me this, like to take care of the planet. But if you give them like real life reasons in their neighborhood, for example, if they just find out like the heat in the summer, for example, like there are some in urban areas, the heat in the summer will be a big challenge, not like in Paris because now it's green, but for example in Berlin it's very hot. And then you can just ask them like, would you like to be in a very, let's say, very beautiful, green, and also less hot place in the summer? And they yes, we'd like to change this, yes. So what can you do? You can learn it in our program. So we just give them real connection to their challenges in their areas they're living. And this gives us much more easy access to these people. And we have actually over 10,000 signups. And our problem in scaling is the investment topic, because investing in education in general isn't happening, because there's no lobby for educational
So we need
programs.
to look for the people with the black cord, because they're the investors.
Yes, but not only the investors, but also the politicians. And I think like also we are all like in a shock moment for the last decades, especially I can just say like in Germany, but I guess in Europe it's similar. Like we are just shocked about how young people are not connected to each other. That we are shocked about the mental health crisis is increasing and increasing. But we should stop being shocked
And start going outside.
Yeah, and start going outside and taking action, and also like protesting, because I heard like in France the people like to protest a lot, right? But we have to protest more also with the young ones. Like the Fridays for Future movement is also decreasing. So we should build alliances with young people together, take them serious, and go to the streets and really fight for the rights, and also like fight for more access means more investment, more money in nature education.
A call for more connection, more protest, more money for nature. Yes, of course, this deserves an applause. we're running out of time, so very short. But something I really liked that you mentioned in the preparation was pass along the spark. It's something you did when you worked in Bali. You invited everyone in the neighborhood and let them tell about their businesses. So could you just very shortly talk a little bit on that?
Yeah, of course. So set up this morning spark every week. People would come and explain what they're doing, whether they were purifying water through ceramic pots, whether they were using hotel sheets, make it into yarn, making their own products, making electric bicycles. And they would come in and talk to the children and spark an interest with them. But then also the parents were there too, and they ran businesses as well, and they could help facilitate. They could help fund some of these projects as well. But it also gave an opportunity for children to realise what was going on around them in their own community, and they could get involved too. And they either set up partnerships or supported through voluntary work, or set up their own company on the back of what they'd seen.
Yeah, it's really, again, broadening the impact, not just with the children, but involve everyone, the board, the parents, and so on. Hanli, for you, how can we scale the amazing impact you're having with Eye and Water? You already have a big alliance worldwide.
So working with the video you saw, the work we do with kids in Cape Town, we realized that we know what we're doing works because we had all this anecdotal evidence. Then we did the study with the university in the US. Okay, now we have all this empirical evidence that it works. And we kept getting these emails and DMs like, what you're doing in Cape Town, we really need in Argentina. We really need in Hong Kong. We really need in India. We really need in Marseille. And we kept getting these emails. And you know, you can only get so much out of a 1-hour Zoom call where you're like, share more of your and then it's like, well, where do we go from here? And we dug down deep into our methodology and said, let's roadmap and framework our methodology. And it's the ocean connection methodology. Now that we know what it is we do, what the steps are, let's train other grassroots organizations to be able to deliver ocean connection methodology through a community asset mapping so that it's relevant to their community, that they have ownership of the program they create. But when they use the ocean connection methodology in their program, we can start having a shared monitoring and evaluation database. And this means for grassroots organizations who are in an earlier phase than we are, they can leapfrog to impact and fundraising. So to give you an example, we've trained 11 organizations in Ecuador a couple of years ago. We're going back next month for another 11, 15 in Argentina soon, cohort in Maldives building, training organizations in South Africa. And sharing a MEL platform is super important, monitoring and evaluation, so that funders can see this works. And a startup grassroots organization can say, we don't need $10,000 to run a pilot. Fund us because we know what we're doing works and we can do it in this way. So it's sharing best practice so that we can leapfrog grassroots organizations to impact where they're still autonomous. And I think that kind of collaborative working, you can start seeing nonprofit, education, grassroots organizations come into the systems change conversation that we are excluded out of right now.
I mean, this panel is way too short because there's still so much to say. But I hope that all the amazing work you're doing, like taking people to the ocean, advising people in schools. I just want to say, Ed, you have a book. You wrote a book, 100 ideas. Yeah, there you have it for primary schools. So people who are interested in that, please go and find Ed on the book signing session. And Anthony, just keep on taking so many people on camps. It's amazing. It's an amazing work the three of you are doing. So please give them a big round of applause, intergalactic applause for Hanli Prinsloo, Edmore, and Anthony Owosekun. Thank you so much. Aren't they amazing? Yeah, it's not only about learning in nature, but especially learning from nature. And from the moment we will belong, then we will preserve it. People want to be involved, and we need to give them just the right guidance, and the three of them are definitely doing that. Thank you for sharing those insights. It was really nice to talk to you. So let's continue. I'm looking at Frédérick Mathis, because let's continue our educational journey with the co-founder of Réseau Être and the founder of Hebe, Frédérick Mathis. Hello, hello.
Hello.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Yeah, fine. I take some notes because my English is so awful, so...
He's just being modest. It's really fine. Yeah, Frédérick, you lead Hebe, Horizon d'émancipation et de bifurcation écologique. So emancipation, horizons, and ecological bifurcation. But you're also the co-founder of Réseau Être. Literal translation would be the network to be. And to be what? It's about the ecological, it's a school on ecological transitions. Could you maybe tell us a little bit more on what you do?
Yeah. The main goal of Être schools is to connect end of world, end of months, and also to be in this transition. And I started in 2004 in a small town near Toulouse. It's because my accent, you can hear it. And I worked with youngsters who were placed by justice. And these youngsters will be first victims of global warming. But for some people, it's hard to project themselves in the future, like they said the precedent panel. And I tried to speak about these issues, but the answer was, it's not my priority. They were focused on living and finding a job. So I realized I had to make these ecological issues more concrete, like you. So I went with these young people to the countryside and practiced ecological jobs, installing solar panels, carpentry, farming. Then I had their interest because they realized what was in it for them. So my first reaction was to connect them with training courses that existed. The response, they came back and they said there were no ecologic topics in trainings. It was too theoretical. And for girls, because we have half girls in our training course, it was not nice to have so many boys, and it's quite violent in the training.
Yeah, so even for people who couldn't see themselves in the future, you said, yeah, I do want to create, I want them to be involved in the ecological transition. They said, no, it's not my thing. But yet, you developed a program with the feedback you received. You developed a program which improved all the feedback you received. So it was a mixed group with boys and girls. It wasn't theoretical, it was really practical with the hands. So how did you start with it?
Yeah. Yes, really. But it took 10 years to develop training courses because I began at 2004, so it's a long story. Because a lot of mistakes, tries, and some success too. We wanted to develop training courses for youngsters, but with them. We developed training courses a long time, and it's for them, with them. And the target group also expanded. First of all, it's only for youngsters who have some problem with justice, but now we have 16 to 25 young people who abandon schools, immigrants, people with disability, people who are unemployed. It's like 90% of our public. And the remaining 10% of our participants are people in reconversion. For example, a 45-year-old who was engineer and had a burnout and wants to change of career. It is rich to combine these two groups. Maybe today it's not politically correct, but diversity is an amazing thing. In 2017, a young girl came to my office and said, "You create a school for people who don't like school."
That's like a big compliment, no? If people say, I don't like to go to school, but you managed to do so.
Yeah, sure.
But of course, then it was for a couple of people. And then other people also reached out to you because they said, yeah, we also want to develop this program. And you expanded all over France. And now there's 32? 33?
Yeah.
It's expanding so fast, I cannot even follow. And it's you developed a 3-level program, no? So first they can just taste what it's like to be in ecological jobs, but it goes further than that.
Yeah, we have to adapt the programs because we with different durations to be as close as possible to the motivations and needs of the participants. Because when you have 22 or 23 years old and you abandon schools at 16, because in France it's obligatory to be in school until 16, but you begin to hang out about 11 or 12. It's maybe 10 years you have no projects. So we have to adapt the programs to be more specific for the motivation and needs of participants. We have 3 training programs. One is a 3 weeks program where people can testing different eco jobs.
And that's like, it's like carpentry you already mentioned, agriculture,
solar panels,
so they can taste a little bit which one they prefer most.
Yeah, and it brings routine in their lives. One person said to me, "You permit us to wake up in the morning." It's like that. Yeah.
Someone who was sick of schools, but yet.
Yeah. And the second one is a 4 months program. You know you want to work in an ecological way, but not where. In solar, wood construction, biological agriculture, you can test and experiment different jobs to choose one. And finally, we have a third one, more technical, specific on the job. And it's specific in each school. For example, in Paris, we have a training course about solar panel. In Perpignan, it's biological farming. In Toulouse, wood construction. So you can choose and you can go in other schools. So make like a trip around schools to discover all kind of jobs.
And it's really good, no? Because often in education it's really focused on our brain intelligence, but with the program you developed, it's also what can we make? How can we work with our hands and really add value in society? That's something that you really aim for.
Yeah, and it's a need because in France we need to train like 1.8 million people of transition skills before 2030. So it's quite a big challenge. And 90% of these jobs are hands-on jobs. So like workers and so on. So we have to develop this kind of training courses because now in France and maybe in Germany or South Africa and so on, it's like not a good way to do this kind of jobs. So we have to make this more attractive.
Yeah, and you make it valuable because you say once you finish with our educational pathway, it's for sure that you will find a job because 1.8 million is needed. So if you expand it to 33 and there's ambition to go to Spain and Belgium as well, what's like the success factor? I mean, if people here also want to start with the educational program, what's the strength of the program?
Yeah, we a lot of strengths. We develop a pedagogy with lots of practices, experiments, because in France and maybe in other countries we disconnect of practical pedagogy. So we reconnect with experiments, as you said. Yeah, we put the hands on the earth, and we have no class. The class is a workshop. The class is a nature. It's a powerful way to learn. Students realize there are a lot of jobs, like we said, so we can connect, fight against global warming and have a job. And we do not only train people, but we reinstall trust, and it's very interesting. I heard the same way, confidence, self-confidence, trust, and so on, and it's very important in this case.
Especially because you mentioned that you in the beginning it was with people who had a problem with justice. So this reinstalling trust, that's like a key factor in the work you do.
Yeah, in society, in the beginning, there is no trust in society, in themselves, in others, or in the future. And they received no trust of society. That is a focal point of ETH schools, to reconnect this trusted confidence, self-confidence, the central point of our pedagogy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there's also some after, so it's not only the educational pathway you offer, but you also try to connect with companies. So already from the moment students need to do an internship, so after they graduate, they can go and work with those companies.
Yeah, 76% of young people come in ETH schools, follow with a job in eco jobs or next to eco jobs, and we will. We want to create a pathway between training courses and companies. It's not impactful if we only make training and we don't try to connect with companies. And when the students leave, they go back to society without trust. But we also focus on connecting them with companies. And how we do that? Companies have trouble to recruit now. And we said, change your way of working, and we can train people, and they will be skilled and committed people. The companies, as well as the employees, are committed.
That's really nice. So the pedagogy is good. You reinstall trust. You have a connection with companies. So we're running out of time. So maybe just one last question. If you could have a call to action to the audience here, what would it be?
Yeah. So the message is simple. Let's keep the bullshit jobs. Let's make eco-manual jobs great again. And
there's an applause for that one.
In ETH schools, I'm not sure that the word speaking is good, so it's okay. In ETH schools, we develop a lot of AI. But for us, AI means artisanal intelligence. If you are a company, don't just look for CVs. Look for committed people. Come join us. Let's make the ecological transition an opportunity for everyone.
Okay, that's a really nice call to action. So thank you, Frédérick, Mathis, for sharing your insights, and all the best with ETH Réseau and EB and all the great work you're doing. So please give him a big round of applause.
Thank you.
Yes. And I see that, yeah, our following guest is there. So I'm very pleased to announce Erika Xananine Calvillo Ramirez, who comes from the Anguilla indigenous people in Puebla, Mexico. Please welcome, welcome. And just to give a little bit of introduction, so after industrial animal agriculture invaded your community's ancestral land, you became really committed to protect the food systems and biocultural heritage of indigenous people. And the best way to describe you is as an indigenous rights defender and a climate activist. And she's being noticed all over the globe. Your commitment has been recognized internationally. You were on the Youth Advisory Board of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Yeah, you were recognized as a Regeneration Leaders Fellow by the Prince Albert II of Monaco Foundation. And you lead the communications at the Indigenous People Mayor Group to the United Nations Environmental Programme. So, wow, that's really some recognition. And you founded Tsjo Collective, which is an indigenous woman and youth-led initiative that protects traditional knowledge. So we already spoke about our hearts, but there's so much ancestral knowledge. So we're really curious to hear about that. So big round of applause and good luck. Happy to hear more about your story.
Thank you. Thank you so much as well for the introduction and for everyone to be here. Wasaya, Handina Xananine. Thank you. My name is Xananine, and I'm very pleased to be able to be here because of the support of the foundation of the Prince in Monaco, but also very happy to have heard of everyone and the work they're doing, as I am here also coming to offer you some stories so that we may live with more questions to decide on the paths that we're taking on the work that we all do to promote climate and environmental education that leads to a different world where life is protected. So I would like to start with this story that our leaders have taught us through oral tradition, but that is also written in the history of our people in Mesoamerica. So this is a story of the Mesoamerican region that some may call Abya-Yala. For us, is Natshan. And in this story, we talk about past generations of humans. Modern science says it's different species. But for us, there are humans that are made of different things. The first humans were made out of clay. And they were very soft, and they broke easily. The next humans, they were made out of wood. They were stronger, a little bit too much, because they forgot what the center of life was. And they grew at the point of threatening other beings' existence. And that led to their own destruction. Later, another type of humankind was born, and they were made out of corn, the corn that grows in our lands. Those were us, the current humanity. And I like this story because I feel it depicts the threat and the question that we are all experiencing today. The loss of connection, of awareness, of the relation and dependency that we have to the center of life, that is Mother Earth. And this time is also, and may lead to our own destruction as well. So in this moment, I believe we have to think, what will our legacy be? How will our unique traits make a difference this time? And is it that we will be able to change this ending in the sole opportunity we have? And I believe that precisely in order to answer all these questions, we must lean to the history of traditional knowledge of indigenous peoples, to learn and educate from the wisdom of our ancestry, of indigenous peoples that have gathered knowledge across generations, not merely as ideas, but as pathways of lived experience. When modernity came to our land through colonialism 500 years ago, one of the first teachings that they brought was that nature was separate from humans, that we were different, that we were not able to listen to them, that we were not able to make rituals and offer them as we did. And for us, this history of colonization does not end at the time of revolution, but is still continuing today. And is continuing through the extractive industries that are coming to our territories and the territories of other indigenous peoples as well over the world. For us, it has the name of industrial animal agriculture and industrial agriculture that is taking over our lands, that is taking over our water, and that is also taking away the sacredness of Mother Earth as we have believed on it. And all these ideas are the ones that have made other societies across the world forget that Mother Nature is an ancestor, a continuation of us. And that now, through this system, is why it's able to be a resource that can be sold and traded in the financial system and that can be given away, can be owned by a few. That is what led to this crisis, the climate crisis, but also to an education crisis. That is the one that is now being replicated in our same territories. That is traditional education. But not all disappeared. In our territories, the stories, the chants, what many across history have taught and have said are the chants and the flowers, they kept transmitting to us what is that kept the root alive, what made us not forget that we are also nature, that our bodies and our territories are as our skin is to the land. From the corn we eat, the chants we sing, the flowers we pick. That is our way of education, and that is a new possibility. That is the way that we are reclaiming our truths. We're reclaiming the traditional knowledge that has protected life for millennia, because this system has managed to threaten life on Earth on these 500 years that has existed over the world. And our nations have lived through thousands of generations and still protecting life today. So that is why in Nangshan, in my territory, where I come from, those that came before us, that read the seasons through the water cycles, that read the stories in our hills, are the ones that are allowing us to fight traditional education with our traditional knowledge. And we are doing this not only in the communities, in the territories, but also in digital environments, because that's also another place where us as youth, the people that were born in the digital world, are we also learning. And that is also another form of education that is oftentimes separating us from the reality that we live in. So at Tsjo Collective, the collective that we have made of indigenous young women in our territory, is that we are creating these alternative forms and traditional methods of knowing that are passed down to new generations, to infants, and to also some older people that are interested in reclaiming again the knowledge that we have, the knowledge that has been for a long time separated from us, and that we are now reclaiming back, reclaiming who we are, what our roots are, and are we giving all of this as well in schools? Are we giving it in platforms of the digital world like Zoom? And we're doing all this to create education in a sense that is close to us, to the young people as well. And this is the history that we are now writing as well, and a new history that will be passed down to new generations to understand what is climate change, to understand biodiversity loss, and to also translate what modern science and modern education is telling about the world and how that is connected to the stories that we have, so that we can do all this dialogue of knowledge that we believe is important as well in the globalized world that we live in. So in order to regenerate this education, we also need all of you. And we need to learn as well from other forums of reclaiming this education to be able to give it to the next generations and to all of us, young people as well. So I hope that you will be able as well to join us in this path of feeding a new way of education that is also ancestral, a way that allows us to reclaim the value of the traditional knowledge in sowing that our ancestors taught us, in protecting land that our elders are also teaching us, and that allows us to protect the nature that we all depend on. Not only us in our territory, but all of us around the world. So I would like to end with a poem that I really like about nature that is from a Mesoamerican ancient poet that is called Nezahualcóyotl. So I will start. What is the meaning of our roots on this land? Nothing here lasts forever, just for a while. Even if it were made of jade, it will shatter. Even if it were made of gold, it will break. Even if it were quetzal feathers, it will tear apart. Just in here for a while. How shall we live? Will we leave nothing behind on this earth? How shall our heart respond? Is it in vain that we came to blossom upon this land? Let us at least leave flowers. Let us at least leave chants. Thank you.
Thank you, Xananine. How nice to conclude this with a poem. It's so nice you're telling us we shouldn't dominate nature, but if we no longer see Mother Nature as a continuation of us, yeah, we think it can be owned and it can be sold. So luckily you lean on ancestral knowledge and you claim the value of it. So thank you so much for sharing that and showing us that it is possible that young people can dream of a different future, an ancestral one. And hereby we're at the end of this session on Earth Education, learning in and from education. And I think it is clear that people will only protect what they truly love. And love, it comes from reconnecting with nature and really have experiences. And unfortunately, it's not equal for everyone to experience nature, so real change therefore requires inclusion, role models as we saw, and systems which do not exclude. And I think that ultimately it's about a mindset shift, that seeing nature as something outside of us, that's not okay. It's about recognizing it as something which we're deeply part of. So the call to action is clear. Invest in those organizations. That's also one thing, but also invest in connection. Make space not only for knowledge, but also for the hands and especially for the heart, and give every generation the opportunity to rediscover nature, and therefore they will protect it. Because in the end, we do not inherit Earth from our ancestors. We only borrow it from the future generations. And it's up to us to return it in a good state. Thank you so much for attending this session, and I wish you a pleasant rest of the day at Change Now.